Hey guys, it's Maria, and today I'm going to be going over all the questions of the SAT math calculator section. So I'll just be going over all the questions and giving you guys a look into how my thought process would be in answering these questions, and just break you down the kind of like general patterns and types of problems that we see here. So yeah, let's just get started. So because this is a calculator section, I would recommend bringing a graphing calculator to the test. If you don't have one, and no worries if you don't, then a scientific calculator also works fine. It's just that in some of the graphing questions, or ones that may have, like maybe some like tricky algebraic expressions to plug in, a graphing calculator would be nice to just kind of keep things organized. But again, if you don't have one, a scientific calculator or a basic calculator works just fine as well. So here we have the front page with all the formulas, and here we have the first problem. So, okay, on which interval is the target heart rate strictly increasing and then strictly decreasing? So just glancing at the graph, I can see that between 40 and, oops, that was badly drawn. Okay, between 40 and 50, it looks like it's strictly increasing as the slope is just going straight up, and it's positive. Then between 50 and 60, the slope is just going straight down with a negative slope. So it looks like between 40 and 60 is when the target heart rate is strictly increasing, then strictly decreasing. So that answer is B. Okay, and then question number 2. If y equals kx, where k is a constant, and y equals 24 when x equals 6, what is the value of y when x equals 5? Okay, so we have y equals 24, which they tell us here, k is a constant, and x is 6. So we can divide 6 on both sides to isolate k and give us 4 equals k. And then now we can plug it into the next set of variables here. So where they tell us to find y and they give us x. So we have y, which is unknown, and we know that k is now 4, and they tell us that x is 5. And so y equals 4 times 5, which is 20. So the answer is C. Okay, and then question number 3. So they tell us that L and M are parallel lines. I'm just going to note that. And S and T are parallel as well. So if the angle measure 1 is 35 degrees, then what is the angle measure of 2? So we can see that because all these lines are parallel, there are corresponding angles in this image. So if this is 35 degrees, then similarly on the other side, this can also be 35 degrees as well, because the lines are parallel with corresponding angles. And so we see here on either side that these 35 degree angle marks are cut across a 180 degree line. And so if we subtract 180 from 35, then we'll get angle number 2. Because, it's the remainder of that 180 degree line divided into 2 angles. So 180 minus 35 is 145 degrees. So, that's the correct answer, which is D. Okay, number 4. If 16 plus 4x is 10 more than 14, then what is the value of 8x? So we can see here that they give us this expression, 16 plus 4x equals 10 more than 14. Well, we know that 10 more than 14 is basically just saying 10 plus 14, right? So 10 plus 14 is 24. So that's what this expression equals. And then from here, it's pretty simple variable isolation of just subtracting 16 on both sides. 24 minus 16 is 8. Divided by 4 on both sides, which gives you x equals 2. And they ask us what the value of 8x is. Well, we know 8, and the value of x is 2, so 8 times 2 equals 16. Which is C. Okay, and then number 5. Which of the following graphs best shows a strong negative association between D and T? So we have a negative association, which I think implies a negative slope. For example, if you see in answer D that as D increases, T actually decreases. Versus, if you look at example C, you can see that clearly as D increases, so does T with the positive slope. Well, in answer D, it's a negative slope. So A and B don't really give us too much of a direct negative association because all these dots are kind of sprawling. B, the slope is very clear, and then A is just kind of all over the place. C gives us a clear positive association because of its positive direct slope. So that leaves us with answer D for a negative association. And then question number 6. So we have 1 decagram equals 10 grams and 1,000 milligrams equals 1 gram. So first we want to find out what 1 decagram equals in terms of milligrams, right? So 1 decagram would be equal to 10 grams, and 1 gram equals 1,000 milligrams. So 1,000 times 10 would give us the amount of milligrams that are in a decagram. So 1D, short for decagram, would equal 10,000 milligrams. So with that, how many 1 milligram doses are in one 2 decagram container? So then 2D would basically just be 2 times 10,000, which is 20,000 milligrams in 2 decagrams. Okay, so yeah, these questions are going from easier to harder. So if you notice that, unlike the no calculator section, these questions are a lot more graph and image based. There are less direct word problems focusing on expressions and equations and more on I guess the variable component of it of seeing these images, determining relatively precise calculations, things like that. Just being able to notice kind of what your strengths and weaknesses are in math and seeing how those align in each math section in the SAT. So number 7. So, okay, we have a graph that shows us the number of solar panel rooftop installations. And it's asking what the appropriate label for the vertical axis of the graph is. So, if it's 27,500, if we look at the answers, first in terms of tens, so, I'm assuming it would hypothetically be 90, 80, 70, 60, all the way down. Well, just if you do some mental calculations of A is 90, B would be 50, C would be 60, 40, and then 35. Just with some basic mental math, or you could plug that into your calculator too. It's clear that won't add up to 27,500. That won't really get you anywhere, maybe to 1,000 something. So A is not the right answer because just mentally adding up 90, 50, and 60 wouldn't even get you close to 27,500. So the next, what about hundreds? So it'd be 900, 500, 600, 400, 3,500. Or sorry, 350. Wait. Yeah, sorry. 900, 500, 600, 400, 350. And again, if you just do some mental math, it's even just adding up half of it, it doesn't even really come close to 27,500. And so B is also not the correct answer, because you could add up these amounts in your calculator too, and you can see that it just won't add up to that amount. And then C in thousands. So 9,000, 5,000, 6,000, 4,000, 3,500. So this looks like more of the correct answer because, again, just mental math wise, or you can plug these, numbers into your calculator as well. It adds up to 27,500. And you can see that in tens of thousands. That wouldn't make sense right off the bat because this first amount of 9 would be 90,000 if it was in tens of thousands. And 90,000 is already bigger than 27,500. So with that in mind, the answer is C. Because you could again solve this with mental math or, just by plugging these amounts into a calculator and seeing what you get. Okay, for number 8, for what value of n is n minus 1 plus 1 equal to 0? So I'm just going to write out the equation here. Subtract 1 on both sides. Giving us n minus 1 equals negative 1. Well, you can see here with the absolute value equation on the left of n minus 1 and absolute value signs, an absolute value is never going to give us a negative number, right? So no matter what you put as n, even if it's, like negative 250 minus 1, that's going to give you 251. Regardless of how negative or how positive the amounts you put in because of the absolute value signs. So with that, the answer is D. There is no such value of n because an absolute value will never give you a negative number. Okay, question 9. Which of the following expresses the air temperature in terms of the speed of a sound wave? So here it's looking like we just isolate the variable T from this equation to give us the air temperature. So we have this equation. And now we can just isolate T. So first subtract 1052 from both sides. Sorry, this is a little messy. Okay, so we have A minus 1052 equals 1.08 T. And then we can divide 1.08 from both sides to give us T equals A minus 1052 divided by 1.08, which is A. And then 10, which of the following air temperatures will the speed of a sound wave be closest to 1,000 feet per second? So, okay. First, we're trying to figure out what the air temperature is, and we have 1,000 feet per second for the speed. Well, we know that A covers the speed of a sound wave, and we're trying to find T. So the previous question that we solved gives us T as an unknown. So we can plug in T, or we can have T as a variable and then plug in 1,000 for A minus 1052 divided by 1.08, which when we plug into our calculators, should give us negative 48, roughly. You should get about negative 48.14 or 0.15, which we can round to negative 48. So, okay, number 11. Which of the following numbers is not a solution to the inequality of 3x minus 5, which is greater than or equal to 4x minus 3? So first we can try to isolate x as a variable. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides, which gives us negative 5, x minus 3. And then adding 3 to both sides, negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. Negative 2 is greater than or equal to x. So the solution to this equation will basically be greater than, or it would be some number that is greater than, that is less than or equal to negative 2. So with that, and we can see that our options here, negative 1 is the only number that is greater than -2. So it wouldn't fulfill the requirements here for x of being less than or equal to -2. And then question number 12. So based on the histogram above, which of the following, which is closest to the average arithmetic mean number of seeds per apple? Okay, so we can do a little bit of algebra to help us solve this question. So we can see with the histogram that, for example, like each column shows us the number of seeds and then how many number of apples have that number of seeds. So we can add up all of these different categories by multiplying, for example, the first category of, okay, there are 3 as the number of seeds, and then 2 apples that have that number of seeds. And then continuing to add of 5 number of seeds times 4 apples that have that number of seeds, and then continuing so on and so forth. I'm going to run out of room here on the side, so I'll just write it down below. Try not to make it too confusing. 7 number of seeds times 2 apples that have that. And then finally, 9 as the number of seeds times 3 apples that have that. Okay, so then we can add up all this together. So this is 6, 26, 14, and 27. Which gives us 73 total. 73 as the total for the number of seeds and 12 apples. And because it tells us there are 12 apples, we can take the total number of seeds divided by 12 apples, which gives us about 6.08, which we can round to 6. So the answer is C. Okay, and then question 13. So here we have a survey data, which is broken down into the table below. Okay. So we can see here that there are a total of 310 people who answered the survey. And we're trying to find 19% of approximately all survey respondents. So 19%, which we can also write as 19 over 100, times, so this is like a fraction version of the percent here, and times the total to figure out what 19% of that whole total would be. So 0.19 times 310 would give us 58.9. And you could also write this fraction as 0.19 as 19 over 100. So that gives us 58.9. And the closest category with that number looks like the number of males taking geometry, which would be answer C. Okay, and then question number 14. So we're given a sample of fish. And the outlier measurement of 24 is an error. What will change the most if 24 is removed from the data? So from the variety of fish that we have here, ranging from 24 to 8, 24 minus 8 is 16. So 16 is like the variety of the lengths of fish that we have here. And if we take out this 24-inch fish as a margin of error, then the next biggest fish is 16. So 16 minus 8, which is the smallest fish, it would be 8. So after that, the mean okay. So after we've calculated that, we can see that the range of the fish displayed here would change significantly versus if we look at the median or the mean. If we looked at the mean, it would be if we looked at the median, it would be relatively the same if we did like the crossing out method, for example, of, just crossing out to find the middle number here, and we'd get something along like one of these 12s here, right? And then for the mean as well, if we added that 24, the mean would increase slightly, but not too much. But as we can see here, when we calculated the range, the difference between 16 and 8 is pretty significant, versus you wouldn't really see that big of an amount of change between when you're talking about the median or the mean, so therefore the range would change the most in this example. So that answer is C. Okay, and then question 15. What does the C-intercept represent in the graph? So we have the total cost of renting a boat by the hour and the amount of time that someone would rent the boat for. So C displays the total cost. The graph above displays the total cost C in dollars of renting a boat for 8 hours. So the C-intercept would represent the initial cost of renting the boat prior to, the time amount that you would be charged. So the C-intercept would be the initial cost of renting the boat, because it would be the initial cost, and then as the graph increases, as the amount of time you rent the boat for increases, so does the value of C. Okay, then number 16. Which of the following represents the relationship between H and C? So here we're just trying to find the equation given to us in the graph. So we can see here, C, pun. Okay, so C is the total cost equals, well, we already know that the C-intercept is 5. And then now we just need to find the slope. So we can take 2 points on this graph. Since it's a linear line, I'll just take the rise over the run. So the rise would be 3 here of 8 minus 5, and then the run would be 1. So rise over 1 would be 3. So the slope would be 3h and then plus 5 of the intercept. So the correct answer is C. And then 17. So for what value of x is the value of f of x at its minimum? So we're looking first to find what f of x, also known as y, what the minimum value of that is. So just looking at the graph, the lowest point, the minimum would be here, which looks like which looks like -2. And so now the x value at that minimum would be -1, -2, -3. So the correct answer would be B for 17, because this coordinate point would be at -3, -2. Okay, and then 18. In the xy plane, if the origin is a solution to the system of inequalities above, which of the following relationships between A and B must be true? So, since we have the origin as the solution, if we plug in 0, 0, also known as origin, for x and y in this system, we should come out with 2 inequalities in this system of inequalities. So let's try to plug those in. So 0 is less than 0 plus a. 0 is greater than 0 plus b. So basically 0 is greater than a and 0 is less than a and 0 is greater than b. So we can see that a must be positive if it's greater than 0, and then b must be negative if it's less than 0. So a should be greater than b. And then 19. Food truck sells salads for $6.50 each and drinks for $2 total. The food truck's revenue for selling a total of 209 salads and drinks in one day was $836.50. Okay, so 6.5 S I'll use for the number of salads sold, plus $2 D for the number of drinks sold, and the total number of revenue they got. And they tell us that they sold a total of 209 salads and drinks in one day. So I'm going to write out the system of equations of S of the number of salads they sold and D of the number of drinks they sold is equal to 209. So just to isolate one variable in this, the number of drinks they sold would be equal to 209 minus S. So if we plug this into our equation below, 6.5S plus 209 minus S, there's an S, minus S equals 836. Sorry if it's a little messy over here. Equals 836.5. Okay, so then simplifying. So 2 times 209 plus 418 minus 2S equals 836.5. Again, sorry if it's a little messy. So 6.5S minus 2S is 4.5S. And then subtracting 836.5 minus 418. That gives us 418.5. And then divide by 4.5 on both sides. That gives us S equals 93. So the correct answer is B. Oops, that was a little wide. Okay, so B. Sorry if this is a little messy, but we pretty much just made a system of equations here of, the number of salads and the number of drinks sold each day was equal to 209, and then the amount of revenue they had was the price of each salad and the price of each drink added up to equal the total amount of revenue. And then isolating one variable, isolating one variable, plugging into the other, and that's our final answer. Okay, moving on. So 20. So Alma bought a laptop that gave a 20% discount off its original price. The total amount she paid to the cashier was $P plus an 8% sales tax on the discounted price. Which of the following represents the original price of the computer? Okay, so let's say X is the original price of the computer, and she got a 20% discount off its original price, so 0.2, which is the 20% discount times the actual original price, would be the amount of her discount, which would equal 0.8 of the original price of the computer, right? Because if you take a 20% discount off the original price of the item, then you would be paying 80% of the full price. So the sales tax is 8% of the new discounted price. So 0.08, which is the 8% sales tax, times 0.8x, which is the newly discounted price of the item, would be the sales tax that Alma pays. So we can write this as the price that she pays to the cashiers, P, is equal to 0.8x, which is the 80% of the original price that she pays after the 20% discount, plus 0.08 times 0.8x, which represents the 8% sales tax that she pays on this now 80% of the original price of the item. So we can rewrite this in terms of P as hold on, let me simplify this. 0.8x plus 0.08 times 0.8, which would equal 0.0064x. And so 0.0064x plus 0.8x is P equals 0.864x divided by 0.864 So in other words, P divided by 0.8 and 1.08. Oh, sorry. Okay. Hold on. Up here, when I mentioned that 0.8x of the 80% of the price that you're not paying, plus 0.08 of sales tax times that 80% of the item, we can rewrite that as 1.08. Let me just erase it here. Okay, we can rewrite that as 1.08 times 0.8x. And so then P, if we divide on both sides, would basically, if we isolate x, would be rewritten as 1.08 divided by P divided by 1.08 times 0.8x. Sorry, 1.08 divided by 0.8. Yeah, that's a correct answer. So then that would be answer D. Okay, and then question number 21. So here we have probability of someone chosen at random who recalled at least one dream. So the probability that someone from group Y who recalled at least one dream would, chosen at random from a group of people who recalled at least one dream, is equal to the number of people group Y. Hold on, sorry. Just talking myself through this. Okay, so we have group Y, which is equal to the number of people in group X who, in total, who recalled a variation of none to 5 dreams. So the number of people in group Y who recalled at least one dream, which is 68 plus 11, 79 people, is the sum of the 11 people in group Y who recalled 1 to 4 dreams, and the number of people who recalled 5 or more dreams. So the total number of people who recalled more than one dream. So this is group Y for people who recalled at least one dream. And then for group X, it's 57 plus 28 people for some variation of recalling anywhere from 1 to 5 dreams. So that gives us 85 for group X. If a person is chosen at random from those who recall at least one dream, what is the probability that the person belonged to group Y? So 79 plus 85 gives us 164. If we add up these amounts here for the total number of people who recounted at least one dream. And the probability that the person belonged to group Y would be 79 out of those 164 people, so the correct answer would be C. Sorry, that was a little complicated. But yeah, as you notice, that these questions may not, feel necessarily tricky, maybe, depending on the person, but they do get, objectively a little more complex. So being able to, think things through, and if you notice, so I did just pausing, trying to read it through, showing your work, all of these steps of all of the process of showing your steps and kind of working through these problems is really essential in this section. Okay, and then questions 22 and 23. So, which of the following best approximates the average rate of change in the annual budget for agriculture and natural resources in Kansas from 2008 to 2010? Okay. So, we can see here at the top, this is the agriculture and natural resources section. And the average rate of change in the annual budget for these from 2008 to 2010. What is the annual rate of change between these budgets? So between 2010 and 2008, which would be 488 106 minus 358 708. That difference would be $129,398. in thousands of dollars. And so if you divide that by the number of years then that these two budgets cover, which is between 2010 to 2008, then if we divide that by 2, reflecting those 2 years, then that would give us 64,699. So if we're looking at the approximation for the best approximation for the average rate of change in these annual budgets, and this is 64,699 in terms of thousands. So really it would be like 64,699,000 if you added like extra zeros here. Just gonna add like 3 zeros at the end. We can see that 6,500,000 would be the closest approximation to the budget changes here. Okay, and then answering question 23. Of the following, which program's ratios of its 2007 budget to its 2010 budget is closest to the human resources program ratio of its 2007 budget to 2010 budget? Okay. So we're looking at human resources, and I'm going to switch colors so it's a little clearer. So we're looking at human resources 2007 and 2010. So if we're looking at ratios, and I'm going to erase this just so we can do some more work on question 23. So the ratio we have here is 4,051,050 divided by 500, 921, 379. Which program's ratio is closest to this ratio? So here it's kind of like more of a plug and chug problem where we can have this ratio. I'll plug in the numbers right now into my calculator. Divided by okay, so this gives us a ratio of roughly 0.68. And now we're just going to plug in the other values from 2007 to 2010 and decide which ratio is similar to that. So we're looking for some ratio similar to 0.68. And plugging in all my options here, I can see that if we look at the education budget and we plug in those values from 2007 and 2010, that these amounts are similar. So that gives us, if we look at education, that gives us a ratio of about 0.72. And if you compare the other ratios of the other answers as well, this is the closest answer. And so with that, the correct answer is B. Just again, plugging in the ratios of all these other departments, plugging it into your calculator, and deciding which is the closest fit. Okay, 24. So here we're looking to write an equation of a circle. And we know that the equation of a circle is this formula. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And we can plug in the center, which is hk. So we can fill that in on our formula here. With a radius with an endpoint of 4/3 of 5. So we plugged in the center. And if we simplify, that gives us x squared plus y minus 4 squared equals r squared. And so the radius would be the distance from the center to the given endpoint of the circle, right? So between the center, like if I draw a circle, it would be like from the center onwards out. So if we use the distance formula to figure out what that distance is, and this just in the distance formula as a reminder, and this would also be helpful to memorize, is r squared equals like 1 point. Oh, sorry. Like P2 minus P1. Oh, wait, sorry. Instead of using P, I'll use X and Y. So like X2 minus X1 squared plus Y2 minus Y1 squared. And that would give you your radius. Or your distance here. So we're trying to find out what the radius is, and we know 4/3 minus 0, just given off of the endpoint, and then the center, 5 minus 4 squared, and this gives us 25, with simplification of 4/3 squared, plus 5 minus 4 squared. This gives us a simplification of 25/9 if you plug into your calculator. And then r would equal 5/3 if we took the square root. So but to put it back into the equation, which is asking for r squared, we can just leave it as is here with 25/9. So the equation for this circle would be x squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 25/9, which is answer A. Okay, and then question 25. I'm gonna erase this work here so we have a little more room to work with. Okay, and that answer is A again. So question 25. The equation above expresses the approximate height in meters of a ball. After approximately how many seconds will the ball hit the ground? So if we know that it's launched upward from the ground with an initial velocity of 25 meters per second, then, and we can see that here in this equation, we can rewrite this as at a height of 0. That would give us 4.9 t squared plus 25t. If we're trying to figure out after how many seconds would the ball hit the ground. When the ball hits the ground, the height would be 0. So then we can rewrite this as 0 equals t minus 4.9t plus 25. If we take out the t in this equation, so leave it on the outside, minus 4.9t plus 25. then we know that one of these zeros is going to be t equals 0, and the other one would be, if we put this in, equals 0, so negative 4.9t equals negative 29, so t would look something like 25 divided by 4.9 of 5.1. Yeah, 5.1. So after how many seconds? So we know that when the ball is at 0, it's either like at the start when the ball is first getting off of the ground, and then also when it's finally landing. So t equals 0 wouldn't make sense because that would indicate the initial existence of the ball being on the ground when it's first thrown up. So t equals 5.1 would be the next logical conclusion, which can be rounded to 5, which is the answer of D. Okay, and then question 26. So, Katerina's a botanist. If type A trees produce 144 pairs, how many pairs did type B trees produce? So, type A trees produce 20% more pairs than type B trees. So, if X represents the amount of pairs that type A trees produce, then type B would be 20% of that. So if you add this up with the invisible 1 in front of X, that would be 1.2X for the total number of pairs. And we know that type A trees produced 144 pairs. So this equation that we expressed would be equal to 144 equals 1.2x. And dividing by both sides by 1.2, we would get 144 divided by 1.2, which is equal to 120. So therefore, oh, sorry, I just did that wrong. Okay, so X is the number of pairs that type B trees produce, and type A trees produce 20% more pairs than type B trees did. So 0.2x would reflect the additional amount of pairs that type A trees produce. And so that would be 1.2x. And so the number of pairs type A trees produce would be equal to 144 equals 1.2x, indicating the extra 20% of pairs produced. And then divide on both sides would give you 120 equals x, which is the number of pairs that type B trees produced. So that answer would be B, 120. Okay, and then 27. Okay, and then we're going to erase some of this so it's a little clearer to see. Okay, so which of the following is a reasonable approximation for the number of earthworms to a depth of 5 centimeters below the ground surface in the entire field? So the area of the field is 10 meters by 10 meters. So the area would be 100 meters squared. And on average, the earthworm goes 5 centimeters below the Earth's surface. And this area is split up into 1 by 1, meter squares. So each student should be digging. The earthworms with the depth of 5 centimeters investigated by the students should be about 1/100th of the total number of earthworms in the entire field. So, because the earthworms are counted to a depth of 5 meters for each of the regions, for each of these 1x1 regions, then these regions investigated by the students should be about 1/100th of the total number of earthworms to a depth of 5 centimeters in the entire field. So the counts for a smaller region for the total number of earthworms is between like 107, as we can see here, like on the lower side, 107 and 176. A reasonable estimate for the approximate number of earthworms coming to the surface for the total field should be about like 10,000, if we multiply by 100, would be somewhere between, if we multiply by 100, it would be somewhere between 10,700 and 17,600. So with that, like, kind of like range in mind, 15,000 would make the most sense if we're considering the calculation in the tens of thousands. So the answer would be C. And then question number 28. So the system of inequalities that we have here. Of the system of inequalities. Okay, so we can graph these lines. So 2x plus 1. Y is greater than 2x plus 1, so this line would look something like that. And the other line, 1/2 x minus 1, that would look something like this. If we focus on like y-intercepts of like -1 and 1, and the slope of 1/2, and then a slope mean of 2. So let me draw that a little clearer. Okay. And which quadrant contains no solutions to the system? So based on this graph, it looks like quadrant 4 has no solutions because there's no interceptions in that quadrant. We can see that the line of y is greater or equal to 2x plus 1 like completely doesn't even pass through that quadrant, and there are no other intersections. So it's only above in quadrants 1, 2, and 3. So with all that said, and there are no points in quadrant 4, the answer would be C. There's no intersections and therefore no solutions in quadrant 4. Okay, and then 29 for a polynomial. So the value of P3 is -2. Which of the following must be true about Px? So if a polynomial of P over x was divided by x minus 3, it would be Qx if we're talking about polynomials. Qx plus r over x minus 3, where r would be the remainder, right? Like, you would have the polynomial, and then whatever left over of the remainder divided by the dividend. And so Px can be written as that. So when P of 3 is -2, So if P of 3 is negative 2, it must be true that negative 2 equals P of 3, which is equal to, if we plug in x, 3 minus 3 of q over 3 of q3 plus r. Sorry, this is a little messy over here. Is equal to r. So the remainder of when p over px is divided by x minus 3 is negative 2. So with all that said, the answer would be D. The remainder, when px is divided by x minus 3 is negative 2. Oops, drew extra line. Okay. And then question 30. So here we have a parabola, quadratic function. And what would be and we have the equation of the line here. Which of the following could be identified as constants? So if you look at the structure of this equation I'll write it out, of qx equals a of x minus h squared plus k. A, h, and k would all be constants, right? Where hk is the vertex of the parabola. And so, since we have the equation here, the coefficient of x is negative 2, as we can see here. So this equation can be written out and broken down as x minus 1 squared equals x squared minus 2x plus 1. And can be broken down subsequently into y equals x squared minus 2x minus 15 equals x squared minus 2x plus 1 minus 16. Sorry, this is a little hard to read. X squared minus 2x minus 15 of x squared minus 2x, x squared minus 2x plus 1 minus 16 equals x minus 1 squared minus 16. So with that, it looks like our equation would be answer D of y equals x minus 1 squared minus 16. Okay, and now we made it onto the gridded question section, where we have 8 questions here. So Wyatt can husk at least 12 dozen ears of corn per hour and at most 18 dozen ears of corn per hour. Based on this information was a possible amount of time in hours that would take Wyatt to husk 72 dozen ears of corn. So 72 divided by 12 would be 6. And then 72 divided by 18 is 4. So if Wyatt husked 12 ears of corn per hour, that takes 6 hours. If Wyatt husked 18 ears of corn per hour, that'd be 4 hours. So anywhere between 4 and 6 hours could work. Okay, and then question 32. The limit for a covered truck is 6,000 pounds. Delivery truck carrying 8 identical boxes, each weighing 14 pounds, will pass over the bridge. If the combined weight of the empty delivery truck and its driver is 4,500 pounds, what is the maximum value of X that will keep the combined weight below the bridge's weight limit? So we have a weight limit of 6,000 pounds. We have a weight limit of 6,000 pounds. And it can't the weight of the truck can't be any greater than that. So an empty truck and driver would be 4,500 pounds plus 14x for the weight of the boxes and still unknown number of boxes I could carry. So if we simplify this, subtracting -4, 500 equals 1,500 divided by 14x. That would give us something like 107.14 boxes. And if we round down, because you can't have a non-integer number of boxes, it would be 107. Let me just box the other answer up here too. Okay, and then question number 33. According to the line graph above, the number of portable media players in 2008 is what fraction of the number sold in 2011? So 2008 sold 100 portable media players. 2011 sold 160. So 100 divided by 160 is 0.625. And 0.65 is also equal to 5/8. Okay, question number 34. A local television station sells time slots for programs in 30-minute intervals. If the station operates 24 hours a day, every day of the week, what is the total number of 30-minute time slots the station can sell for Tuesday and Wednesday? So a day has 24 hours, right? Says here. And so 24 hours a day times 2, which is 48 hours for Tuesday and Wednesday, right? 2 days. And each time slot is 30 minutes. So that's half an hour time slots. So we have 48 hours divided by 1/2 hour slot, which gives us 96 time slots to sell, divided into 30-minute time increments. Okay, and then, yay, last page. It's been a long section. If you notice, there's a lot of perseverance required to push through. But don't worry, keep going. There's a lot of questions. So time management is important here to make sure you don't burn out too early and to just keep pushing through and solving questions that you can focus on easier than others to make sure that you get all the points that you can. So here we have a cylinder. If you remember from the formula page at the top of the test, the volume of a cylinder is pi r squared h. So plugging this in, we have a volume of 72 pi. What is the diameter of the cylinder? And we know that the height is h, which is equal to 8. So if we divide by 8 pi on both sides, then we'll get 9 equals r squared. So 3 equals the radius, and 3 times 2 is equal to 6, which is the diameter. Okay, and then next, another algebraic equation. So here we have this equation. For what value of x is the function h above undefined? So if you notice, this equation is actually the equation of a square. So we can rewrite the bottom part as x minus 5 plus 2 squared. The equation of a square. if you can't read that, it's x minus 5 plus 2 squared, which can be rewritten as x minus 3 squared. So, which gives you a 0 of 3. So, the value of x for which h of x is undefined is 3. And last two questions. So just go open a bank account, and there are similar problems like this in a lot of these SAT calculator sections where it's a question regarding like interest, and then you've also seen questions with like sales tax and stuff like that. So all of these types of questions really pop up multiple times in these tests, and it's a familiar pattern and type of question to solve. Okay, so what is the value of x in this expression? The initial deposit was $100, and she uses the expression of 100x to the t to find the value of the account after t years. So we have 100 plus 2% interest, so 0.02 times 100 would equal 100 times 1.02 to the t. So the value of t in this expression would be 102 because it's the initial base component to then exponentially grow. And then last question. So Jessica's friend Tashawn founds an account that earns 2.5% interest compounded annually. Okay, so here we see that Jessica made an initial deposit of 100, right? And interest of 0.02, otherwise known as 2%. So after 10 years, it's 101.02 to the 10th, which would be, when you plug that into a calculator, 121.899. So when Tashawn makes an initial deposit of $100 into his account, the interest on his account is 2.5% compounded annually. So after 10 years, his initial deposit has been multiplied by 10 times. His initial deposit has been multiplied by 10 times by the factor of 1.025 as 2.5%. So after 10 years, Tashawn has a deposit of 100 times 1.025 with 2.5% to the 10th, recognized in 10 years, and then this would equal 128.008. Oh no, sorry. 120, that was a little messy. 128.008 to the nearest 10th of a cent. So Jessica's deposit earned 21.89, and Tashawn's initial deposit earned 28.008. So Tashawn's initial deposit earned 6.11. Oops, let me write that somewhere else. Earned 6.11 more dollars than Jessica's initial deposit. Then yeah, that's it. It's a long section, so thank you so much if you've made it this far in this video. I hope that helped. If you maybe still had some more questions about some of these questions here, the SAT practice test number 1 on the College Board website has a written description of all the problems that I explained here in the video. If you still need more guidance, so feel free to look back on that as a resource. And yeah, thank you so much, guys. This concludes the end of my SAT test video sequence. So yeah, thanks for listening to my tips, and good luck on the test.